Hello and welcome to Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jah and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. Tonight, we're going to be having a conversation with Senator Wesseh, that's the senator from River G County. Senator, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you.
Well, to our viewers across the globe, we are broadcasting right here and we are streaming live on YouTube and Twitter. So it's a little bit different tonight. Normally we stream on Facebook. Tonight we are streaming on YouTube directly. So if you're just joining us, please welcome to Focus on Liberia. We'll be having a candid conversation with the senator from River G, Honorable Wesseh. Senator Wesseh is visiting here in the United States and we are privileged to have him. First and foremost, Senator Wesseh is the senator in the Liberian legislature. He served in the office of the president of Liberia, the former president, that is Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, as Minister of State without portfolio from 2012 to 2014. The senator began his rise to national prominence with the presidency of the University of Liberian Student Union in 1978. His political training and activism was developed through his membership in the Movement for Justice in Africa, that's MOJA, and the Student Unification Party. Some of his work include Deputy Acting Secretary General of the All African Student Union based in Accra, Ghana, Director of the W.E.B. Du Bois Center for Pan-African Culture, also in Accra, Executive Director for the Center for Democratic Empowerment, Special Advisor to former President Amos Sawyer on the peace process, that's from 1992 to 1994. He also served as Minister of Youth and Sport. The senator was born in Tijekan, Putuopo District, River G County. Senator, that's a long introduction. Welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Let's start by saying briefly, you are in America. What's the mission?
Well, I am visiting a combination of private and official, but mostly private. I participated, I was invited to the honorary program of Dr. Sawyer by the Indiana University, which has had a very, very healthy historical relationship with Liberia, and particularly with the University of Liberia, assisting our law school. Dr. Sawyer had been teaching at the university at the IU, and he was giving an honorary doctorate degree in humane letters for his outstanding academic and political work in Africa, in the university, and in particular in Liberia, where, you know, at one of the most critical times, he was president of the interim government of national unity. So I was honored to be one of the few people who received a invitation to watch this event as an honored guest. It was extraordinary. I've had time to do my medicals. I had a heart surgery a couple of years back, and until we have cardiologists working in Liberia, we may have to keep doing this. We thank God that something is happening now with respect to that, the issue of specialist cases, the attendance of specialist cases in Liberia. I will be at the graduation ceremony of a nephew of mine who will be from Emory University getting a law degree. Oh, wow. Very proud of him. And I'm also going to be part of a delegation to go to the U.S. Senate next week, the details of which will come later. But I've been alerted already that we'll go to that meeting with some Liberian legislators, I think senators in particular, to meet with key United States senators to talk about our relationship. So, those are the many things that I'll be doing. I've been in Indiana, I'm going to, in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm in Maryland, will be Washington, D.C., most likely to do Florida, and then return home.
All right.
Plenty of work on our decks in Liberia.
Once again, we say welcome to the United States. And how are you doing in health? You talk about heart surgery.
Oh, yes, that was done, and God has been wonderful. Absolutely great.
Thank you. Thank God for your health. All right. Focus on Liberia. We try to actually focus on Liberia. You being a senator from River G County, which is relatively new compared to other counties, give us a brief history and geography of River G, if you don't mind. So that for those who don't know where River G is, the senators, the districts, and everything, whatever information you have, just a brief history and geography of the county.
Well, River G is in the southeastern part of Liberia. And so River G is bordered by Cote d'Ivoire, our neighboring country of Cote d'Ivoire, the county of Maryland, the county of Grand Jide, Grand Cru. So we're right in the middle there. If in terms of geographic location, I think that's the best I can give at the moment. Okay. We don't have any access to the sea. It's in the deep forests of Liberia, lovely place. One of the counties is 16 years old now since it was established. It was one of the counties that was cut off from Grand Jide. Okay. You see, Liberia, what is River G today, was part of what was called the Eastern Province. And this Eastern Province was controlled, supervised from the county of Maryland. And then after some 90 years of that existence, we became part of River G, of Grand Jide, when the 4 new counties were created in 1964. Now, after from 64 to the time that River G was set up, we were an important part of the Southeast, as I pointed out, and that in particular, it was during the course of the war that they thought the increasing campaign for River G to be cut off from River G, from Grand Jide began, or intensified, I should say, because they thought had happened was existing, discussion had been taking place. River G is predominated by the Grebo-speaking Kwa group. And so this is one county in which everybody speaks Grebo. Now we've had cases where where we have some Grebo speaking people in Maryland, of course, and in Grand Cru, but River G is predominantly, in fact, is 100% Grebo speaking. Some little variations, you know, in the various languages. So if there's anything else to be added.
Right.
Today we have 10, I should say 10 districts,
okay.
10 administrative districts. Those 10, then we have 3 electoral districts. The 3 electoral districts are represented by 3 members of the House of Representatives, and like the Constitution provides, 2 senators from the county. I'm one of the 2 senators from the county. Got 3 representatives, and then you have 3 statutory districts. I told you 10 administrative districts,
right.
3 statutory districts, and 3 electoral districts. Now, what else can I say about the county?
Right. No, that's good information. Some say the county should have been called River Boy instead of River G. They said River Boy is beautiful, and I've not been to River G. Talk to me about that.
Oh, River, we got 2 rivers. Now we have the Bear River. That's where I take my fish from when we get our fish from River Bear. Those of us who come from the Palipo speaking sub-tribe, we are on the River Bear. River Bear is one of the biggest rivers we have in Liberia. In the southeast, it is a big river. Yes, we do have another river that you are speaking about, but in the wisdom of the creators of the county, River Bear ran through the county. It touched all key parts of the county, and therefore it was better in the view of the creators that we should name it River Bear.
River G.
That River G, yes.
Okay. All right. Now, they are, River G, as you correctly stated, split from Grand Jire. There are talks of other counties looking at River G example dividing. There have been talks about Nimba County dividing. There are also been, we saw that with Lofa. Now we have Bapolo, we separated from Lofa. Renewed talks have come about with Bong County even talking about dividing. What do you advise those counties that are trying to divide or trying to split or trying to form other counties based on your experience with River G and being someone from River G?
What is the dominant reasons for these splits? Most of the arguments, like the argument that we use in the case of River G to create River G, we argued that there was marginalization. We argued that marginalization that became very prevalent during the administration of President Doe. So, and when the war took place, during the course of the war and during the war, there was situations that were not palatable, that were not acceptable in terms of how people who were the Grebo-speaking people were treated during the war and by their brothers and sisters. Now, there had not been before the war, there had not been any real problem between the Crown-speaking people of Crown-speaking people and the Grebo-speaking people of Grand Jire. We worked together very closely. But part of the things of war was the increasing, violence, and during the political crisis, violence against Grebo-speaking people. Now, most people thought that maybe we could do it differently by cutting off from Grand Jire. And that came quite handy.
Right. And how is that working out?
Well, it's there. It was working. I mean, once you have human beings together, there will be problems. You know, what I see in the other countries, they're using the examples and they're using cases of marginalization. Whatever we say, we need to put into place democratic conditions. We want to make sure that there is fairness, there is justice in the way we administer affairs and the resources in our counties, in our region of our country. We have to make sure that there is fairness in the way we deal and distribute the national cake or the part of the cake that come to our county. There is also the need to ensure proper representation of the people of those counties. When a county is created, with all the difficulties in jobs, when we are creating, when we are appointing people, we must make sure that there is a balance in the distribution of jobs, you know, in a county. You know, jobs, especially jobs appointed that are political appointments that are made by the president. We have to make sure that there is that we have fair distribution of schools, medical facilities, and all of those things that will make people feel that they belong. We must not do anything that will marginalize any group of our people. So that is the big concern. Now, I hear the same questions being raised in Bon County. I don't know the details. I don't think, of course, that the intention should be political greed, in which case people believe when you have a county, notwithstanding the conditions, that you then will have 2 senators. Mm-hmm. So if that's the only reason that drives some, I would definitely be opposed to it. Mm-hmm. But I think if people have genuine reasons of marginalization and they're fighting against marginalization, and they can find until if they cannot find the need, the kind of thing that ensure balance and fairness, then they have the right to want to be to succeed, you know, from the bigger body politics.
Right. Can we find a way to resolve these kind of issues?
That's what I'm saying. I think the first thing should not be to break away, because if we do that, we will end up breaking up that every 3-4 towns we want to be calling themselves counties, and that's not what you want. Right. You need county size to also get development. Right. You know, it's not just the physical detachment of one that automatically turn into development. No, not at all. It's the way we're trying to ensure justice and fairness in distribution of resources.
Right. Now, let's talk about you have come to the United States. How is our local government doing? Because you are one of those, you know, a legislator who's supposed to be a check on the government. How is the government doing so far?
Well, this is, to be fair to the new government, this is only 5 months. This is May. We are in May. We hardly have 5 months. It's a little over 4 months. Now, a great deal is expected to be done. I think there is a huge expectation, and I think every one of us who have been in government who know how difficult it is to do the things that you say you do. It's one thing to get in there, begin to see that the things you dreamt existed really do not exist. So you have to learn that. Then we recruit new people who are learning to sit in their chairs, to learn to learn the ropes of the game. You know, so you have a problem that will not go away just within 4 months. Expressions are made, and there's a policy statement that says our direction, our agenda will be pro-poor. That requires further explanation, further definition, and further planning and processes in place so that people will understand it by feeling what it means. I think it's too early to expect all of the things that are being said now about what is meant by propos.
Right. And what's about the cleanup, or how smooth it is taken after from a government you were part of, the Ellen Sirleaf-led government? Well, how was their sailing? Did they learn properly since you were taken over from Madame Sirleaf, or was it just difficult because of maybe things that she should have done, she didn't do right? How you look at that transition?
I think we're saying in 74 years we've never had this type of transition. We never had an elected government turning over to another elected government. There was, and some people, and to go further to say, turning over to an opposition. This was the first time in many, many years, more than 74 years, in the particular case of going to opposition. So I'm saying, I did not expect that it would be totally easy, especially when many of the people who were calling opposition themselves have been in opposition for a while and had all kinds of expectations and anticipations and beliefs, some of which were unfounded. Some of those things did not really represent the certain knowledge. It was based on what they thought they needed to, that they thought government meant. So they're sitting down and getting to learn it. So I would say, yes, there was smooth transition. There was no violence. There was some difficulties expected. Many of the things that are happening now that people do not find, people do not like some of the things that are happening, are things that are happening simply because the people who are handling it are new. Most of them are new. Most of them have an idea what government is, Then it comes suddenly and it's not exactly the way they thought,
Right.
So that's. But so far, I think it's good.
All right. Now coming to you personally, you were a student activist in the 80s, advisor to interim President Sawyer on peace process, and later Minister of Youth and Sport. You serve as chairman of the Center of Democratic Empowerment, also Minister of State without portfolio under President Sirleaf. You got a long CV and long experience, okay? So a lot is expected from you, especially when you look around you in the Senate. You have tons of experience compared to other people. So a lot is expected of you. How are you living up to those expectations?
Well, this is the issue. You are quite right. And people are very correct to want to expect so much of me. Definitely. I think I've had experiences of being an ordinary worker, working in the factory, working working as an ordinary electrician, working with Lamco and working with the Freeport. So before going back to school and going to school and getting active in student politics. So I have experience of a worker and experience of an intellectual, what we call the shock force of the intelligentsia students. Then I worked very long years with social movements, and then in government. So there are expectations, and the way I handle some things sometimes appears slow to some people because I apply the different experiences that I've had. So I can't jump into something just like that. In the discussion in the Senate, many of my colleagues say, why do I speak last? Because I want to give an opportunity to others to hear their perspective on a given question. By the time I speak, I think most people realize that I'm speaking wisdom. I benefit from what others have said. I benefit from the experiences that I've had. I benefit from what I'm dealing with realistically today, you know. So, yes, so there are high expectations. Sometimes these expectations, people want those expectations to be translated into material things immediately. Right. So when we talk about the need for certain educational institution, the content of our education, when I speak about that, when I speak about the areas, part of my passion, education, part of the issue is about land, the management of our land, the distribution of our land, the issue of infrastructure development, the committees you find me on, the issue of local governance to ensure proper decentralization, the devolution of authority. Now, when people hear me explaining those things, they think it must happen immediately. Right. But they also need to know, I tell them, that once you make the decision to be in legislature, it means that you must do everything to get the majority view. Sometimes to get the majority, even for their own good, requires a lot of patience. I mean, you hearing some of the things we're going through in River G, you know, I mean, with even colleagues of mine in the legislature. I mean, many people see that what they're doing is not proper, is not right, but it takes some time. I have to bear it because I have a little bit more experience on some of those things than some of them. Right. So I listen.
We'll come to that, Senator.
I just gave you an example of
what I want to ask you on is about expectations. You come from a very small county and relatively new. So part of those expectations too will be, okay, Comrade Wesseh had been working for government so long, so he should have some money to help us. So a lot of is expected of you to be on material things.
Yeah, that physical is true.
Help. How are you helping? Or what are you doing regarding that?
You know, one of the things that we work for all our lives have been that, you know, you must not use government to enrich yourself. Now, there are some people who say some of the things, and that's what they do the opposite. My job, I have grown up all my life to serve, being of service. It wasn't meant that I must go and deny people, extort public money, embezzle and steal, and call myself a rich man and go around and spreading the money. However, whatever I have, whether it's in my income that I make, things I invest somewhere that bring up some resources, things that I do and mobilize support for, I'm very comfortable. I'm happy that I'm being able to do that. That is why you will not see and hear that Senator Wesseh is part of some group that have been involved in stealing national resources. I'm being in the cabinet. I've been running civil society organizations, been running NGOs. And in all of those places, even in the student movement, in all the places that I work, God has been good to me to keep on the right and straight and narrow path and work and deal with the things, use the things that I have and not to plan on the basis of other people's resources. Right. So those who expect, it takes some time for them to know that we do things. I got a huge number of students, people that who are on my scholarship. I've been supporting people, share my income in our communities to help people who have problems. They want to old and young people who have problems with their housing. I go and help in the communities and change our radio stations that have problems. I participated. The radio station we have today, the first one that was built by me. The number of churches in River G that would tell you that they zing over their head was donated by me. You know, so I do things, school
Right.
building. I do things that I can handle within my means.
Right.
I don't do them because I want to impress. I do them because they must be done,
Okay.
and I have the means to do them.
Great. All right. Recently you were suspended indefinitely by your colleagues in the River G Legislative Caucus. Long back, you were expelled from the Liberian People's Party. And right after the election, you were also suspended from the Unity Party. What's going on with all these expulsion and suspension? What's the problem here?
You probably forgot to know that, um, you know, I was detained by President Talbot. I was detained, almost killed under President Doe, who replaced Talbot. I was detained, almost killed by Charles Taylor on 2 occasions. My house was vandalized and my family almost killed, exterminated. All of those things, if you count them, then you will ask, in all of those cases, what did I do wrong? Have you ever heard that it was because I stole money, I killed somebody, or I violated some law? No. It's simply because of the wrong application by some people of their limited power that they have. And I can tell you, in all of the cases, I have come on top. I have come on top. In the cases of whether it was Talbot, you know how things ended, you know, with Talbot. He was wrong. I mean, Mr. Talbot and us had a great relationship. He supported the things we were doing. But the extreme right wing within the Tree Party led him astray to do the things he did. So was Mr. Doe. Doe found out later on that when we were advising, it was to save his ears. It was to save his throat. He didn't listen, and he thought it was power. Unfortunately, others who did not have the patience that I had to explain did it the other way. Mr. Taylor, where are all of those people when they chose to take the opposite end of what I'd always said? You mentioned the LPP. We created the LPP. When they said so, they said the guys who were involved in that was simply because we were talking about building a coalition. We needed to build a coalition. We knew that LPP could not do it alone. Even though we founded the party, we needed a coalition. We needed to work with other people. And at that given time, the issue was not just who will be president. Some of the people felt by this discussion about the building of a coalition with others meant that they would not have an opportunity to be president in case the coalition were to be successful. So the best way they thought they could do it was to go and make a statement. It didn't go through any process. So because it's the party we created and it is our party, we didn't say a word. Those of us who were, if you look on the papers creating the party, some of the people were the people who the two were suspended. Dr. Sawyer was, myself, and Dusty Wolokoli. Ask any one of the LPP, let them show you one paper that they wrote besides somebody say hearing this outburst and putting in a newspaper. They said nothing like that happened. So there is no record, nowhere that you will show me that we were expelled from the LPP. In the case of UP, I mean, sometimes, you know, if you just listen to what happened in the case of UP, after the election, when Mr. Boakai was not listening, you know, when there were people around Boakai who believed that Boakai was going to win, and Boakai did not need the support of experienced people and did not need the support of Mrs. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, and they began a campaign, vile campaign, that they thought that Buckeye was going to win anyhow. And the way for for them to be of influence around Buckeye after he won the election was to make sure that certain people that they thought were influential should not be around. So in their campaigns, they were saying, Communist Wesseh is not supporting you. Medina Wesseh, his wife, not supporting you. The Secretary General of the party is not supporting you. The standard bearer, outgoing standard bearer, Mrs. Sirleaf, is not supporting you. That kind of campaign was a very bad campaign because I introduced Buckeye in the Southeast. I was the one. So I took him there. When I contested in the election in River G, the exact numbers of votes that I got were the votes that Mrs. Sirleaf and Buckeye got. You know, he knows that. Whenever he went to River G, I was the one, you know, I did everything to support him. He was my friend. We knew each other years back, you know.
But did you support him? Did you support him in the election?
What do you mean support him? You mean whether I voted for him? Then you have to go in the ballot box.
No, I'm not asking the voting. I'm asking about campaigning and other forms of logistical support.
But just go and see all the tips, all the things that I had to say. They did not want it. They did not want that support.
Okay.
I did not take money from my pocket to give to Ellen Sirleaf when she won. We did what we knew best to organize and ensure that things will happen. But if you say you don't want it, if you campaign like they did, those around Buckeye and himself, or you allow it to happen, he did not want the vote. You were here when Al Gore was made to believe that he didn't need the support of Bill Clinton. Yeah. What did Bill Clinton do is, you know, the candidate is very important. In this particular case, Umbo Buckeye was the candidate. If Buckeye did not want you in this campaign, you stay away.
Right.
And if I stay away because I am a political figure, because I have a sense, I concluded that the way they were going to lose. And the person who was going to win, from what I could see, was George Weah. You know, if I could not make that judgment, if I could not do the analysis, then all my 40 and more years of political experience would be useless, because that's what I've been doing. Well, there were other friends who were building mansions. That's what they spend their time on. I spent my time on studying our society and seeing and looking for the best way to provide leadership. So if Mr. Buckeye didn't like it, I did not and would not go and force myself on him. And that's what I know that Mrs. Sirleaf did. That's what I know that Mrs. Medina Wesseh did. That's what I know the Secretary General of the party did. If you didn't want him, you accuse him of all kinds of stuff, the person will stay back. Right. That was the most logical thing to do. And that's what I did. And I have absolutely no regret for doing so.
And so what was the reason behind the suspension? Because you didn't support them, or?
Yeah, but did you listen to them? They said that we didn't support them. And the party constitution said we should support our candidate. So that's what they did. But you know what? There was no party meeting in which this decision was taken. A few people, some announcement was made, invitation was sent out by Honorable Buckeye. He sent the invitation out for us to meet at the party headquarters. We went to the party headquarters. They alerted a few others who went to his house in the night. And the few people went there, not even a quorum of the executive committee met. They didn't even reach a quorum. A few of them went there and said they took a vote. And the people who took the vote were 16 people voting. There's 65 members of the executive committee. You know, You didn't have, you had less than 30, about 31 people. You had about 31 people in that meeting. 16 voted to expel the president, Mr. Sirleaf, me, senator, a member of the executive committee, Mrs. Wesseh, who was not anymore in the executive committee, was not even in a country, was working in the diplomatic field with the Mano River Union. They drew a name inside, and the Secretary General, who had been, the acting Secretary General, had been working, you know, so hard, you know, who also had a relationship, you know, family relationship with the vice president. Oh, they expelled. They made that decision. So the decision was challenged to the Election Commission. It is clear that the decision was unconstitutional. There was no due process. There was no quorum. The vote taking did not, to expel anybody, you need two-thirds of the executive committee, especially an executive committee member. Right. You had 16 people. Unless you tell me 16 people are two-thirds of 65.
They are so, but let's talk about River County and your suspension from the caucus. What's going on there?
No. So I just want you to see these different stages. That in all of the cases, people are wrong. The issue of River G caucus, now that one is a very, disgraceful thing, not for me, but for the gentlemen who are involved in this thing. You know, you say, what is the reason they gave? The reason they say that I undermine and vilify the caucus. Up to this day, I do not know what they meant by that. Undermine and vilify the caucus. Second thing, they say that I was in activities that was in this repute. Those English words and the way they constructed them, I do not know. I need to. But they say this repute of the office of the president and therefore undermining development. Now, what was the background to all of this? The background, I'm senator doing my work to confirm presidential nominees. The president makes nominations. There were over 400 nominations made, especially in the local government area. And I am a ranking member of the local government Committee on Internal Affairs. So all the names that are being given, we are scrutinizing. River G was not the only people that had names. That were 59 names. 59 names were given, where nominations were made by the president. 48 of those nominations have been confirmed with me on the committee, and made a report to the Senate, and the Senate approved that committee report. Only 4 of the others had issues. The rest of the other people, the issues they had were either they were wrongly nominated, some were doubly appointed. In one district, the same person is giving this position and this other position. So we scrutinize this. Some positions were civil service positions, some were judicial positions that should not have been appointed by the president or sent to our committee, you know. So those were the things. This was doing my work with due diligence, with scrutiny. How come doing this job becomes a disrespect of the president? The disgraceful part is the people who are taking this decision know that we are protected by the Constitution of Liberia. Our work is to do oversight of executive authority. Right. So if the Constitution say only the Senate must give consent to presidential nominations before the president can appoint. And when the president appoints, the president commission. And what do we look for in the confirmation process? We look for education, we look for training, we look for experience, and we look for suitability. In the case of local government appointments, two key areas stand out. One is the experience, and one is suitability. What do we mean by suitability? This subjective thing. Because local government is dealing essentially throughout the country with the local people and their traditions, their customs, and practices. So a person who is giving a job in those areas must have the experience to know the things so you do not offend the sensitivities and sensibilities of the local people, because by doing so, you can create chaos, you can create confusion. Suitability. Is this person the right type of person to be in this district, or to be in this chiefdom, or to be this? This is from time immemorial, because by failing to do that, you could have trouble at the base level of our society. And when society at that level is in chaos, it can disrupt administration in the city. So we must pay attention. Now, I am a son of a paramount chief. I know when I'm talking about traditional practices and leaderships. So some of the appointments that were made, the 4 appointments left in River G, were the appointments that one had to do with somebody who the local people had chased out because they say he was involved in witchcraft business. Now, don't ask me whether I know or what, but to the extent that that person's performance will create disruption in the life of the local people, hold him aside. Because nobody told him to leave when he had to flee. Right. Then you take the person from a lower position and make them, the president doesn't know all those details. Right. Then you go and remove a chief and put somebody, even in my hometown, the district commissioner there, a young man who, not the district commissioner, the township commissioner, a young man who insulted the elders. While the elders go to their meeting, secret meeting, he records them and take information. They chase him out of town. He ran out of the town.
One of those people as I researched, I think the city mayor that you oppose, because according to you, he's not from
the county. The other person. I was coming to the city mayor. Yeah.
Go ahead with the city mayor.
So the city mayor, the man is appointed. The man is nominated. Now, I say, because of, you see, the cities in the rural communities, in our local counties, the cities there are not the same like in Monrovia. The case of Monrovia is not the same, all right? So people who are in those cities, you have no idea what River G, what Fishtown is. Fishtown is still essentially a village. It hasn't, they think that all the minimum conditions of a city, they don't exist. You don't have running water. If somebody who read about what a city should be before you can be declared a city, they will know that what we are talking about is a village, okay? So you don't have running water, you don't have electricity, you don't have this, you don't have, a lot of the things that are the facilities of a city. We don't have. So people are there basically what predominates practices is traditional. So how would you take somebody from who has no traditional links to these people, doesn't know their practices, doesn't know their culture, except that he came there to do business, and I hear the thing that some people say, oh, the man, he was trying to build a school, or in the place there, he's trying to build a house. But if that's what you use, then why are we making all the noise about white people should not be when the Constitution is very clear? Because the Constitution is very clear about who should and should not be our citizen, you know. So this person, if his appointment will create a kind of problem among the traditional leaders, and we've said traditional leaders, I am properly educated.
Yeah.
I am properly educated both in the Western education and in our traditional education. Now you tell me, if I tell you that there is relevance to our traditional practices that has kept peace in the communities, right, and therefore nothing should happen to disrupt it, then you tell me, say, I should allow it to continue to happen? I say no.
So
that's my job.
That certain did not meet the suitability criteria.
Exactly. He does not meet the suitability criteria. He does not meet the experiential criteria. And that's what I'm supposed to judge. Right. So I take the decision. And you from River G, you are saying to me, because I'm exercising my legislative duties, that constitute being opposed to the president. Isn't it a shame that that means that you are vilifying a few of the other colleagues who think otherwise? But listen, if they say it's a democratic practice, so if we go to a meeting, even if I'm not in a meeting and you took a decision, you say there's a majority decision, okay? If you know this is a majority decision and I have no view, my role is irrelevant, then go and enforce it. How do we go to a meeting because somebody disagree with the people in a meeting? So you go and you say you suspend the person. What sense does it make?
Right.
We have that. Is that how we run organizations?
I wonder how that's going to be resolved. Or first of all, what's the purpose of this caucus and how you're going to resolve the issue?
The caucus is only a convenience. You are elected and automatically you are a member of the caucus. You are not admitted into the caucus by anybody. You get say caucus, you from River G. That's all, simple. Who are these people? They are citizens elected from their counties. So they come together as a convenience to discuss issues, especially when they have to do with their county.
But you sound like you don't really care about the decision.
Because it has no impact on me. If the thing was going by a majority like that, then why are we discussing? Then they should have gone to confirm the people. They should have announced that they have decided that is the 4 people that have not been confirmed yet, you know, are hereby confirmed. They've been saying that if they had that power, if the caucus thing had that relevance, except for the propaganda effect, then they would have done it. Right. But the point I want you to put in mind is, keep in mind, is that let's take the element of democracy. So you go to a meeting and you say this is a majority decision. So if one person say they do not agree, what you need to do is to enforce the decision without this one person. But it's not a reason to say you suspend the person because they don't agree with you. Look, there is also issue of power in our Senate, because it is the Senate that is the Senate that must confer, that must give consent. So in the Senate, the practice we have in the Senate is, since all the senators do not know the details of who is nominated from a given county, it says the 2 senators from each county must agree on the nominations that come from the county. It doesn't involve the House of Representatives. The House of Representatives, the Constitution is very clear. This House of Representatives have no role to play. So you can say many from the House of Representatives, it got nothing to do with confirmation process.
All right. Talking about your legislative duty, walk me through a typical week as a senator.
Well, at the moment, there are key areas, and those are the things that I have chosen to do. The the legislators, like you say, the senator, for example, we work through committees. The Senate work through committees. So let me tell you, I am currently chairing what they call the Joint Legislative Modernization Committee, a project. And this one is the one that is dealing with all the transformation processes of the legislature to make it modern and 21st century compliant.
Okay.
The new construction you see, the spacing, how the offices must be designed so that senators have space, the representatives have space and place to work for. The other staff of the legislature to become efficient in their work. I'm involved with that. There's one committee that has membership in both the House of Representatives and the House. I'm chairing that. Very, very tedious, busy. Then I'm also the chairman of the Committee on Youth and Sports. Why did that? You know, I've been Minister of Youth and Sports. We know that President Weah, one is the big constituency that he relies on most is a constituency of young people, youth, the constituency of sports that elevated him to an iconic figure. So that was the last committee that he was chair of. So I was asked to chair it because I think that we need to do something with our youth. We have to deal with issues of our youth. It's a critical area of our. So I'm involved with that. I work with the Ministry of Youth and Sports. The last county meet, I was there every day. The problems of what's going on now in Fly, in Linsu, I'm consulted and I help to share my experience. You ask me for a day's work. Mm-hmm. I'm also the co-chairperson of the Committee on Foreign Affairs. And that's one of the reasons why I'm in the United States. And I will be going to Capitol Hill. Our work every day, the democratic, all the embassies that are in Monrovia are having one function or the other. They're inviting us to something that they are discussing with the foreign ministry. We are with the foreign ministry checking on the work they are doing as an oversight responsibility. So I'm there. I'm also on the Committee on Education. Education is key to me. You know, all the stories you're talking have been things that I've been doing at the University of Liberia. And I truly believe that the work, and coming from the Southeast, I want to see that we have our regional university, the Tottenham University, to be bigger and be to be one of the best universities in Liberia. So I am involved with working with that. And of course, working with others for the beginners education, because the foundational education is critical. And you in education, you know what I'm talking about. When you visited Liberia, I accompanied you to some of the schools that were started. We went to Nikru Town. You know, I think I was very impressed and saw the book that you published, things that can be used in our schools, the new knowledge. So that's the area the next area that I'm working on is on the Committee on Public Works and Infrastructure. The biggest problem we have, one of the biggest problems we have in the Southeast and parts of Liberia is the roads. But sometimes half of the year, we have problems getting to River G, getting to Maryland, getting to Grand Crew or Sino. Something has to be done. So I put my energy into that. So this is all about the different committees that I'm working on. Mm-hmm. Then other committees that land, the issue of land is another area that I'm working on. And you see, if you ask my colleagues, I'm not one of those who happen to be on a committee. Everybody knows that when I'm on a committee, I work, I read the documents, I participate in the meetings for conclusion that will benefit our children and our children's children.
Good. All right.
I consider myself a serious senator.
Serious. So what's about River G? Because I understand the committees, but what really is the work that you are involved in inside River G?
I've just told you when you have to keep in mind now that I am a Liberian senator.
Yeah, exactly.
Elected by the people of River G. So when we do budget issues, what the positive things we get out of it benefit River G. And I make sure that we benefit the River G, and no senator. If anybody tells you that the purpose of a senator is supposed to be to take money from their pocket to do this and do that, that's not true. What you do are things you do to help with your means that are available. So I'm supporting students in River G, from elementary school. I'm supporting River G young people who are going to university within the means that I have. Whenever you ask anybody, whenever I'm in that county, I go to the hospital to see what is going on and encourage the staff there. Right. So when I go, even though I'm not on the health committee, I participate in looking for means to support our health facilities there. The educational institutions there, I try to visit the schools and thinking about ways and making pressure on the Ministry of Education to support those institutions. I told you about the radio station. Right. The first building that the radio station occupied for us to have our local radio was built by me.
Okay, great.
Right now, after recently there was a storm that destroyed the building again. You know, when they destroyed the building, who did it fall on? I was one of the first people that offered to buy the zinc and the things to replace the roof of the building, and the radio station is back on air with some other people participating. You know, so those are the things we do. And unfortunately, you know, some of my people have come to me. They talk about things they know that I've done. Churches, helping to build churches, contributing to the building of schools, contributing to individuals who have problems. They come, old people, they need zinc to build their house so they can get off out of.
And Senator, that has been the problem, because instead of maybe having some safety net programs or doing things through the legislators, we are kind of doing it ourselves, you know, like senators are maybe giving this help. That's beautiful though, but is it sustainable?
No, I know that. That is why I'm saying to you, when I was talking about the public things that we are doing, you asked specifically, you say, what do you do? So that's why I gave a few.
I got you. Let's go to our national budget. I know recently there was a recast budget, and on this budget you have these line items. Sorry, I'm not able to put that on the screen, but I know the recast budget was approved, and you have, you know, things like let me see if I can get this on the screen. The different things that we support in the budget. I wanted you to kind of take me through some of them and explain really what it means. Like, you know, government, public administration, municipal government, and all that. The budget you saw, what is the money going to? If I can.
When you see the reference to public administration, this is a part of the budget that is dealing with salaries of civil servants, of public servants. So salaries and the running of the government. If you go to the Ministry of Education, that part does not build schools. That type of the budget you're talking about, the public administration, is not the one that is building schools and doing things like that. It's about ensuring that those who are working and servicing the industries that the different departments are managing, that those people are paid.
Okay, let me list them. You got public administration, municipal government, transparency and accountability, security and rule of law, and so on.
So let me tell you now, under that, when you say, we're talking about integrity institution. When when people are running these offices, running these departments, we want to make sure that they work consistent with law. So we have issues. We have the GAC that is dealing with the General Accounting Commission,
right?
General Auditing Commission. You have the Human Rights. You have the LACC, the one dealing with corruption and stuff. The Liberian Anti-Corruption Commission. All of these anti-graft institutions. These are called integrity institutions that encourage transparency to minimize corruption. Those things cost money. Okay, so that's what that one is talking about.
Okay. Let's look on the budget again. There are some pro-poor projects that I saw. One of those pro-poor projects is paying the WIAC fees of 12th graders. One of those two is allotting like a $500,000 to the office of the First Lady to do some humanitarian work. How are those projects pro-poor?
Now, many of the projects we're talking about have been in the government, or they are new initiatives by this current government. They call them pro-poor. Okay. That's the name that have been given to them. But they make sense. In the campaigns, the people said they were going to help, and part of the thing was to help young people who couldn't pay school fees, pay their WAS fees. That's we don't call it WIAC anymore.
Right.
So
I'm old school now.
School certificate program. So those who are going to pay, they complained they didn't pay. During the campaign period, young people left their classes. Hundreds and thousands were going to offices of political leaders, So in the wisdom of the president, that part of the thing to assist poor students, because those who parents can afford it will not go standing in the sun. So it means help those ones who have the need.
Right.
So that's an example. The one, the First Lady, the office of the First Lady, we haven't had a First Lady for a long time. We have not had a First Lady for a long time. The past government did not have a First Man. And so now we have a First Lady. The First Lady have all these demands upon her. Are we expecting that she will take it from her allowances? No. Part of her work is to assist the president in the governance of the country. Okay. So she must have resources to work with. And the details of some of the resources that they work with are not resources that are anticipated, or the purpose for the expenditure may be not anticipated expenditure. So if there is because of the weakness of our emergency services, some things can happen. Some woman just fall and, as an issue to the hospital, and they come falling to the First Lady as a woman, most likely she want to do something about that.
Right.
So she takes money, even if she has her own money, it will finish very easily and have $1 million. It's not very much.
One of the concerns is that the money to our office is more than the money to JFK.
I don't know. I don't think so. I haven't compared those figures. That is not true.
That's supposed to be true. But let me shift gear on.
Look at the budget and say whether it is true or not, because JFK budget is more than $500,000.
We'll see, but I don't think so. But let's talk about recently. There have been reports of some killings in Monrovia, so maybe because of social media amplified, or because I don't have the exact numbers to say these crimes are on the rise. But the reports have failed social media about killings, about rapes. People are stabbing people to death, drug use, homelessness. The picture is not pretty when it comes to how people are going through in Monrovia. As a lawmaker, how do you address this kind of issue from the perspective of a senator?
Well, we think that there are very huge social problems in our country. Our young people, a good number of young people, do not have the support base or the safety nets that we're talking about to be able to render, to grow up properly, put it that way, in very simple terms. So what you have a number of them who may be drawn to drugs, who may be drawn to crime. The way to deal with it is for us to, create the conditions to be able to assist these young people to find a way to survive, to be part of a more productive part of society. Now, I do not have the statistics, because when we speak about rise, it has to be linked to a point of beginning, to a point where we are. Then you can say, 5 years ago, as your statistics, as we do here, in such and so year, X number of people were killed. And this year, this one is happening. We don't have that yet. And so I cannot say there's a rise. I will not use such words.
Okay.
In many of our Liberian parlance, there are times where when you hear somebody say, most of the people, they are not comparing anything. They just mean many people. So if you see writing and they say most or on the rise, I mean, they have heard about 2 or 3 more people who got killed. That is not to say that people are not being killed. There are stories that we are hearing, but I don't think it's at the level that we must be afraid. Okay. I think it's at the level that we must increase doing something to minimize the occurrences, that will get us to the rising level.
And what can that be?
Well, there are many things that we have to do, complementary things. On the one hand, what's happening with our unemployment situation in the country, all the frustrations that lead to people doing drugs and crime, we have to do something about it. And it has to do with the increase, the growth of our economy, our development processes that gave hope to more and more people. While that is being pursued, then we have to support our security agencies, so that they do their work a little bit more effectively. There are cases that we have heard about security people being part of a given crime that has been committed. Those are unfortunate developments, and something has to happen with the discipline within our security institutions, our police, and all of such institutions.
There have been leaked sex videos on the internet, and these occurrences are becoming rampant now, or quite often in the Liberian communities, both here in the United States, also in Liberia. So social media now, is explosive. Are there laws on the books to regulate some of these things when it comes to the way we use technology, social media, and other things? I know there are banking institutions in Liberia that are using the debit card. There are social media, cell phone use, and all those things. In the legislature, do we have laws that are regulating some of these things?
In the Liberian, I cannot now tell you quote the laws, but there exist laws. But some of the laws were made when we didn't have the kind of social media we're talking about. Right. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have, those laws must take account of the new realities.
The current situation.
Current. And we are not only the one challenge. This challenge is facing the entire world. It's facing the entire world, that people using the social media to influence elections. That otherwise we won't be doing the elections, the investigations that are going on in the United States. Huge, technologically advanced country like the United States is facing serious challenges in that regard. So you can think about what a country like Liberia would be going through.
So are there any steps that we are taking?
Well, because we have very little control over these social media facilities, we'll look at the laws made, beef up the laws. There's discussion going on in the Senate, but those discussions must be well informed. And I can think that the progress that will be made on the global level will assist the progress that we will make, especially in that regard.
Okay, because quite often we hear the laws are on the books. The laws are on the books. So what you are alluding to and what I believe to is, really, are there all the laws on the books and the issue is just implementation?
But you will not find any law on a book that is talking about, internet and such things, because at the time when the laws were made, there was nothing called internet. Right. They didn't talk about cell phone and selfie and such things.
All right, yeah, that's true. So, yeah, it was. So we got to move a little bit faster to do some things in that regard.
Yes, surely.
All right. There are issues now that are confronting, and we will soon be winding this down. The issue of dual citizenship has been in the Senate, for some time now, or they've been talked about. Just yesterday, there was a rally in Monrovia calling for war crimes court. As a senator, I don't know if you are part of any of these discussions or any of these bills. Do you support dual citizenship? Do you support a war crime court? What are you saying in Senator, or what role are you playing in either in participating in these discussions?
On the what is called dual citizenship, in our Constitution, the Constitution that exists, that terminology, I have not found it. I have not found the word dual. Now, but it doesn't mean that the way citizenship is defined in the Constitution does not give room for dual citizenship. It does, in fact. The Constitution gives room for what is referred to as dual citizenship. Let me give you one example. In the Constitution, we say that if a man is married to a foreign woman, so long as the woman is of Negro descent, the woman automatically becomes a Liberian citizen, enjoys Liberian citizenship, because the Liberian man is married to this foreign woman. We also have in our books, now that woman, the law does not say that she must lose her nationality, the country that she came from. Yeah. So, for example, our first lady, she didn't have to go swearing anything anywhere that I'm a Liberian. She is our first lady and Liberian citizen, and she voted. Her parents are from Jamaica, and I bet she must have a Jamaican citizenship. So what do you call her? She's a dual citizen. Mm-hmm. People who have children, by foreign wives or foreign, whatever. The kids are told that they must reach the age of 21 and they must renounce one of the citizenships. But until 21, who are they? Who are they? Because you cannot have, we are part of the international thing that vote against, that does not recognize statelessness. Right. So these kids are Liberian citizens. And when they go to their mother's home, they accept them to carry on. They are dual citizens. So we have to deal with this thing more realistically, not with emotion. So I support that we do laws to clarify these questions and reduce the problems that people think exist, when in fact the problems do not exist. And when the new law that we are working on now, and I'm very active working along with other colleagues who are from the Judicial Committee, headed by Senator Sherman, I'm working very closely with them, that we must allow now we can put we can put some restrictions on if you are in that given circumstance, you may not hold certain positions. And we can discuss that. You know, it's something that we can
make sense.
Do with. But to say that, you know, such people should cease to be Liberians, I don't think so. I mean, just look at it.
On war crime.
We are talking about Koreans that are returning home to the United States today. Who were those Koreans? They call them Koreans, still Koreans. But so long as they took on American citizenship, the Americans insist it is their citizen. Why are we the only ones that do not want to recognize even our own? Those people there, they call them Koreans. They call them Koreans, but they took on American citizenship. And the whole United States, suddenly all their top officials will be able to make sure that those people return to the United States and continue their work as American citizens. I bet some of them can speak even good English. Yeah.
Now on the War Crimes Court, there was a rally in Monrovia yesterday calling for War Crimes Court to be established in Liberia.
Well, you know, part of the democracy we enjoy is people can make requests. They can call for things. You know, you can call. It doesn't mean that it must happen or it can happen immediately.
So what do you think? Should it happen?
Listen, you know, I was part and I took part in the discussions that led to the peace that we have today. I am a signatory to the peace agreement. In that peace agreement, it took us months. I was one of those who wanted right from the beginning we should have war crimes court. But we went into looking for compromises to have peace, sustainable peace. And the conclusion was that we must have, instead of a war crimes court, we must have a TRC, a Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
Right.
That will allow people to come and talk about the situation of the war, and we find ways to resolve. Right. Then there was a clause, and they gave amnesty. In that, however, they say amnesty will not be granted to those who committed acts that are considered international crimes against humanity. That amnesty cannot hold because Liberia has already signed on to that international agreement, that we are part of it. So if you now are calling for war crimes court, you will be calling for a court that will deal with the crime that has already been established as a crime against humanity. Now, so the other thing is, we've had 15 years of peace, of durable peace, without a war crimes court. Only thing we had was the TRC. For me, the fact that we had that for 15 years and we beat the international record that countries that have gone through violent conflict, that they relapse into conflict, into violent conflict after 5 years. We beat that 3 times. The first 5 years when we didn't relapse into war. Another 5 years and another 5 years. 15 years. 15 years as opposed to 14 years of war. So if you were playing football, war against peace, peace has won. Okay?
Okay.
So they say, our people say, don't fix it when it's not spoiled. So it's not what I will use as my priority.
Right.
Let me put it that way. The time that I made that argument passed, and I saw that there is benefit to be gained by us working on, if there are cases clear, instead of just we walk around, individuals walking around and naming people that this person is the person to be held for war crimes court, to be taken to war crimes court. all of such things end up bringing confusion and driving us back to the confusion. Because there is a way by which a whole process that goes into the selection or the indictment of people for crimes against humanity.
Okay, we have about 2 minutes to go. Let me ask you this about the payment of senator. Right here in the United States, on a website, I think the senator website, we have the list of how much senators have been making since the 18th century.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, since 2009, U.S. senators have been making 174,000. How much do senators in Liberia make, and is that record public?
But the senator's salary is part of the budget. The same way you went and did that research, all you need to do, take the Liberian budget. You take the Liberian budget. The budget carried the bulk salary of everybody, including the president. It's no secret. It is not a secret. So that we don't get into contentious issues, because even us as senators, many of the colleagues do not know what their salary is, because some portion of the salary is paid in Liberian dollars, depending on and some portion it changes. And so so there is a debate between the people on the Ways and Means Committee and our finance department. But how come my salary, you gave me this amount of money, this time, the last time it was given, then they said, no, we put it, and the calculation we did in US dollars, Liberian dollar was this. That's the calculation that give you this. Mm-hmm. So the best thing is to look in the budget. The budget will tell you what it is in US dollars.
Do you know what that is on top of your head?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Because I will be, again, you remember one time Senator Cooper went on a radio and said the senators are making $15,000. They call him, Senator, please come bring our money, give us how this money is, and where you getting your own from, and we're not getting that. Up to now, Senator, my colleagues have not been able to produce that information, and so I don't want to get in that.
That's fair. So, Senator, thank you so much for your time. It's been a very fruitful and rewarding discussion. Do you have any final thing to say before we close down our curtain?
No, I think that I want to encourage the Liberian groups that are involved in trying to help information spread in our country. For you, I notice that you really choosing your topics and trying to actually focus on Liberia. I've listened to some of your things. You have dealt with issues on agriculture, and I think we must continue to do that so that the quality of what information we put out is to the benefit of Liberia. I want to appeal to us that, sometimes there's too much negativity among us. Sometimes when we are talking, it's about the very negative about each other. The things that we have achieved, we do not celebrate them. I was so proud at the program at Indiana University. I mean, when I saw the tributes paid to Dr. Sawyer, along with Dr. Sawyer were billionaires who have been contributing money to the university. Some on the spot declared $40 million, $20 million, this million for this project. Here was this Liberian, an African. I think very few Africans have gotten honorary degrees from that university. And from Liberia alone, two, Mrs. Sirleaf in 2008 and Dr. Sawyer this year, and not because they contributed a dime to the millions of, the school budget, the IU, the budget is over $2 billion. The Liberian budget is less than $600 million. But our former president Our professor, Dr. Sawyer, was praised and honored among those people who make so much monetary contribution. His was contributing ideas to the betterment of the world, to that university, to Liberia. I am proud of that. And I think things like that must be celebrated by us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If you've just joined us, we are ending this broadcast. We've been discussing with Senator B. Wesseh. He's a senator from River G County, southeastern Liberia. We've been having a conversation on things happening in Liberia, and it's been a wonderful discussion. I want to thank you so much, Mr. Wesseh, for the conversation. On behalf of all of us here at Focus on Liberia, we'll say thank you so much for accepting to be on the show tonight. I want to thank all those that have been watching on YouTube and also on Twitter. Many thanks to our producer, Mrs. Yasendi Martin-Peye, also our guest relations manager, Mrs. Stephanie Setro. Until then, from all of us at Focus on Africa, my name is Dennis Jah. We say good night and God bless you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
God bless.
Same here. God bless you.